World News program coming to you live from Algiers with me, William Zian, to the headlines. Dozens of martyrs and wounded in new horrific Zionist massacres in Gaza. The World Health Organization refuses to leave Gaza City for humanitarian reasons. Algeria condemns the Zionist attack on Qatar. Coming up next in France, hundreds arrested in a single day of shut everything down protests. Vital institutions threaten to paralyze the country in rejection of austerity policies, while parties and public voices warn against the Élysées course and vow to bring it down. And sharp criticism inside the UN Human Rights Council over international silence on Moroccan occupation violations in Western Sahara. It calls to end the suffering of Sahrawi political prisoners in Moroccan jails. Hello and welcome back to the details of your nightly news. First, at least 60 Palestinians were martyred in Gaza on Thursday, 53 killed by Israeli fire in Gaza City and the north, and 7 others, including a child who died of starvation in the past 24 hours, while dozens of others were wounded, and medical sources warned that the ongoing blockade, heavy bombardment and lack of humanitarian aid are plunging the Strip into a deeper catastrophe. The World Health Organization has confirmed its intention to remain in Gaza City for humanitarian reasons, despite the occupation's orders for residents to evacuate toward the southern part of the Strip. In a statement published on X, the organization said it and its partners are still present in Gaza City, voicing dismay over the Israeli evacuation orders. It noted that the so-called humanitarian zone designated by the occupation in the south lacks the necessary services to support those already there, let alone new arrivals. Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are facing yet another wave of forced evacuation amid catastrophic humanitarian conditions and relentless killings by Israeli occupation forces. Civilians are being pushed south by the Israeli war machine as gunfire and sporadic shelling continue to shape their daily lives. Osama Ayadi has the report.
The effects of the ongoing war, spanning more than 700 days, are clearly visible on those who have survived in Gaza. Their weary steps reflect the forced displacement they have endured, a displacement that has shattered their spirits and indeed their very lives. Gaza residents have not yet recovered from the effects of previous displacements when they are faced with another forced evacuation order, and their question is, where can we go?
I was displaced from northern Gaza to western Gaza. We were forced to leave 2 days ago. They threw evacuation orders, leaflets on us in Al Sabra. I left looking, without shelter. This cart is with me. It doesn't include a tent or anything. I have been in the sun for 2 days, looking for a place, and I could not find any.
The occupation forces haven't stopped there. They always find a way to uproot the people of Gaza. This time, they are destroying the city's high-rise buildings to force inhabitants to leave. Carrying only what they could salvage, the residents of Gaza are embarking on another displacement journey to places the occupation forces claim are safe, but the situation is no better in the north or the south. Displacement without a destination or resources is no less dangerous. In the meantime, the displaced people live their lives in a state of constant uncertainty.
I'm living in a miserable situation in the street in a tent. As you can see, the humanitarian situation is very difficult for us. The humanitarian situation is almost dead. There is no life, no water, no food, no proper drink. We get water once every 3 days.
Over the past few days, the occupation forces have exerted tremendous pressure on the city, leaving its residents in a dilemma to remain under fire or to flee south, where there are no basic necessities for survival. But the occupation's forces' evacuation orders are met with resistance. The residents insist on not repeating the experience of a disastrous displacement.
Amnesty International has called on the Zionist entity to immediately cancel the mass displacement order issued by its army for the residents of Gaza City amid the escalation of its attack on the city. The organization emphasized that this order exacerbates the suffering of civilians amid the ongoing genocide. And Italian ships belonging to the Global Freedom Flotilla are expected to set sail toward the Gaza Strip from the port of Syracuse in southern Italy. In media remarks on Thursday, the spokeswoman for the Italian mission, Maria Elena Di Lia, said that any attack on the boats cannot in any way be compared to the horrors Palestinians face daily. She stressed that the ultimate goal remains to break the naval blockade imposed by the Israeli occupation, open humanitarian corridors, and stop the genocide. And Algeria condemned the Zionist attack on the Qatari capital, Doha, describing it as a dangerous and illegal act that adds to the continuous series of Israel's violations of international law. This came in a speech Algeria's permanent representative to the UN, Ammar Ben Jama, delivered during an emergency session of the UN Security Council held at Algeria's request. Benjama stated that Israel is acting as if international law and borders do not exist.
Algeria strongly condemns and denounces the cowardly Israeli aggression that targeted the Qatari capital, Doha. We express our full solidarity with the brotherly state and people of Qatar. The recent attack in Doha is more than a violation of sovereignty of a UN member. It is an affront to diplomacy itself.
Benjama noted that the attack on Qatar demonstrates Israel's sole interest in prolonging the war.
It is irrefutable proof that the Israeli occupying power does not seek peace, does not seek the release of hostages, does not seek the end of hostilities, but thrive on war.
On Thursday afternoon, Qatar held funerals in the capital Doha for the martyrs of the Israeli attack that targeted residential buildings in the city last Thursday. The funeral ceremony, attended by the Emir, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, took place at the Mohammed bin Abdul Wahab Mosque, according to Qatari media. The Israeli entity had carried out a missile strike last Tuesday on residential buildings, killing 5 members of Hamas, along with a member of the Qatari security forces. Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani affirmed that his country does not accept Benjamin Netanyahu's threats, noting that a response from the region is being discussed with regional partners. In an interview with CNN, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani said Netanyahu is violating international law, starving Gaza, and threatening other countries in the region. He called for Netanyahu to be brought to justice, noting that he is wanted by the International Criminal Court. And Qatar is expected to host an emergency Arab-Islamic summit next Sunday and Monday to discuss the repercussions of the recent Israeli attack on Doha, according to the Qatari news agency. The summit comes amid intensive contacts among Arab and Islamic countries and efforts to coordinate a unified position regarding what Qatar has described as a grave breach of international law and state sovereignty. Tunisian President Qais Said said that the Israeli enemy spreads division and sows discord among the components of the same nation and even among members of the same people, according to a statement from the Tunisian presidency. During his meeting with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi at Qatar Palace on Wednesday, Said stressed that Israeli occupation schemes will not succeed even if they mistakenly believe they can achieve their goals of igniting internal conflict, division, and the destruction of states' existence.
Among the Zionist enemy's plans is to sow division and sow the seeds of discord among the components of the same nation and even among the individuals of the same people. However, this will not succeed, even if it still harbors the illusion that it will achieve its goals of igniting internal strife, division, and the elimination of the existence of states.
And for his part, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi described in a statement following his meeting with the Tunisian president as enriching and beneficial, stressing that Tunisian-Iranian relations are stable, deep, and fraternal, with convergent positions on regional and international issues, as he put it.
It was a very pleasant and useful meeting, during which I conveyed the warm greetings of His Excellency President Pezeshkian, President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Relations between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Republic of Tunisia, as two brotherly and Muslim countries, have always been deep, solid, and fraternal. There have always been consultations on largely convergent positions between us on various regional and international issues.
And at least 500 people were arrested in France, as you followed in our top stories, during mass protests on Wednesday under the slogan "Shut Everything Down," expressing anger over the government's budget plan proposed by former Prime Minister François Bayrou. According to local authorities, 473 people were detained across France, including 203 in Paris and its suburbs. The fallout from the collapse of François Bayrou's government continues to cast its shadow over France's political scene. In Paris and across other cities, demonstrators took to the streets to reject President Macron's proposed austerity plan, which they say has failed to provide solutions to the country's deepening crises. Marwa Braiwer has the report.
Amid an unprecedented political crisis in France's Fifth Republic, the streets erupted once again, chanting slogans of "We won't pay, we won't consume, we won't work, our only power is total boycott." More than 500,000 demonstrators marched on September 10th, heeding the call of the movement, "Let's stop everything." President Emmanuel Macron sought to get ahead of the protests by appointing a new prime minister, but opposition groups backing the rallies argue the crisis runs deeper than changing the head of government. They say the political and economic turmoil stems from Macron's own decisions.
President Macron must step down. We, La France Insoumise, support this movement and the slogans it carries. People are demanding social justice and respect for democracy. Everyone can see the gap between what the people are asking for and what the political elites are doing. There is deadlock across all the institutions of the Fifth Republic, and the problem lies in the Élysée Palace.
Public anger extends far beyond austerity policies pursued by successive Macron governments. Analysts warn that the bigger challenge lies in Macron himself, who many see as the main obstacle to his new prime minister.
C'est quelqu'un de travailleur et c'est quelqu'un d'habile.
Sébastien is someone who tries to learn from what works and what doesn't. He has the qualities to move forward, but his main problem is Emmanuel Macron. That is why when he speaks of humility or self-sufficiency at Matignon, he is certainly sending a message to François Bayrou, but that message is, in fact, for Emmanuel Macron.
Macron's unpopular choices have already consumed 5 governments in just 3 years of his second term, and his latest appointment, longtime ally Sébastien Lecornu, has been dismissed by the right as cronyism and loyalty politics rather than the will of the ballot box.
I believe the newly appointed Prime Minister finds himself in an extremely precarious position. By naming one of the closest allies and most loyal ministers, the President has once again trampled on the will of the French people expressed in the elections. I think this choice only reinforces an unstable course.
With a public deficit of 5.8% of GDP, among the highest in the Eurozone, and public debt at 113%, what many French call the Macron's era faces one of the gravest political crises in modern history. And amid this deep divide, neither forming a government nor holding early elections seem to stop the priorities of the French public.
Meanwhile, several vital sectors in France witnessed widespread protests with major institutions threatening to paralyze the country in opposition to what they described as the government's austerity policies, along with the housing crisis and lack of opportunities for the youth. In an article published in the French newspaper Le Monde, the writer Duhamel considered that the current political situation in the country raises questions about the variability of the political system to endure amid what he described as a deep economic and financial crisis, or crises, in France, characterizing the governmental instability as caricatural.
This reminds me a lot of 1958, but worse, just as it happened that year. Governmental instability has become almost a caricature. The question now being raised concerns the political system itself and its ability to survive. Unlike 1958, France is currently going through a deep economic and financial crisis.
And in other news, a Sahrawi human rights activist has denounced the international community's silence over what she called decades of grave abuses by the Moroccan occupation in Western Sahara. Addressing the UN Human Rights Council on Wednesday, Ghalia Jami urged an end to impunity and condemned the ban on international observers, including human rights monitors, from entering the occupied territory.
We are deeply concerned about the continued Moroccan occupation of Western Sahara and its persistent refusal to comply with the United Nations resolutions and international law. The Sahrawi people have endured serious violations of their rights for more than half a century. We call for an end to the impunity still enjoyed by Moroccan officials to this day. I myself am a survivor of enforced disappearance.
The United Kingdom has reaffirmed its commitment to humanitarian aid for Sudan as millions face worsening conditions amid atrocities by the Rapid Support Forces. UK Special Envoy Richard Crowder, meeting Sudanese Prime Minister Kamal Idris in Port Sudan, urged greater international efforts to honor aid pledges and stressed the need for a ceasefire in al-Fashir to allow humanitarian access to civilians.
The United Nations and the United Kingdom are committed to engaging with all parties in this conflict, in Port Sudan and elsewhere, and creating a pathway that in time can lead to an inclusive civilian government that represents all the people of Sudan. We will not forget this beautiful country.
The command of the Sudanese 6th Infantry Division in al-Fashir, the joint force, and the supporting forces announced that their forces achieved decisive victories over the Rapid Support Forces this week in al-Fashir, North Darfur State, in the west of the country. In statements to Algeria International Television, Al24 News, the official spokesperson for the 6th Infantry Division in Al Fasher, Asya Al Khalifa, confirmed that the army forces were able to repel a violent attack launched by the RSF along the northern and eastern axis of the city, stressing that the armed forces inflicted heavy losses on the enemy in lives and equipment.
This week, our forces achieved 3 sweeping victories that terrified the militia and further weakened it. The 6th Infantry Division, supported by the joint forces, the police, the General Intelligence Service, the resistance youth support, and mobilized forces repelled a violent attack launched by the terrorist rebel militia on the city of Al Fasher.
Meanwhile, the Sudanese army announced that its forces had regained full control of the strategic city of Bara in North Kordofan state, as part of a well-planned military plan aimed at eliminating the rapid support forces. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged targeting Russia's banking sector, infrastructure, and naval fleet after what he called a deliberate incursion into EU territory. Zelensky said on Telegram that the upcoming 19th sanction package would be the best response, focusing on countries still trading with Russia, its shadow fleet, ship owners, insurers, oil terminals, and market operators enabling Moscow's schemes. The Malaysian ambassador to Algiers, Datuk Rizani Irwan Muhammad Maslan, hailed the efforts made by Algeria in organizing the IATF 2025. The Malaysian ambassador also said that Malaysian investors have become more interested in the Algerian market.
I would like to applaud the efforts by the government of Algeria in organizing such important and meaningful trade fair. This edition is opportune for Algeria to host because this is the year for Algeria and the year of Africa. I can see a lot of engagement between the Algeria and also all the other countries in Africa and also the rest of the world. And for us, Malaysia, this fair is a good platform for the Malaysia and ASEAN companies to find a foothold and to start their economic engagement with all the companies in Africa, specifically Algeria. Currently, I can see the keen interest from Malaysian companies and entrepreneurs into Algeria, especially in the area of manufacturing, steel and aluminium, and also, for example, in the area of fintech, IT, AI. At the same time, we are looking also at opportunity into the area of palm oil manufacturing.
At the Intra-African Trade Fair 2025, a different kind of success story took shape, one crafted by hand. Throughout the exhibition halls, African artisans presented more than just products. They shared a vision of entrepreneurship rooted in culture, creativity, and sustainable growth. Nabil Khazini has the whole story.
While major corporations dominated the headlines at IATF 2025, another kind of enterprise was making its mark, quieter, smaller, but no less ambitious. Across the exhibition floor, artisans from across Africa were presenting more than handmade products. They were presenting a business model rooted in authenticity.
We use different local materials, and most of them are from Nigeria. We get them from our local market in Aba and in Lagos, and we use them to produce this. This is our ashoke, hand-woven. So this, if you own a piece of this, you know that it preserves cultural heritage, and it helps us keep the money within the country, not just to buy things outside the country. And when you buy handmade goods in your country, like in Nigeria, you tend to keep the economy going and you keep the money in the country.
For many, IATF 2025 isn't just a showcase. It's a gateway, a chance to secure international buyers, connect with supply chains, and prove that Africa's creative and cultural industries are ready to compete, not just on quality and story, but on volume, consistency and global relevance. Because handmade products aren't just cultural expressions, they are business opportunities as well. They create jobs, support families, and open doors to regional and global markets.
We make hair clips, we make bracelets from the cow horns. So they are handmade, authentic products, and we are happy. Our business was established in 2006, and from there we are still growing. And I'm happy to be at Intra-Africa Trade Fair. It has provided us with a good platform to market our products, not only to Africa, but to the rest of the world.
From rural workshops to global trade fairs, Africa's handicraft treasures are shaping a future that honors the past while building sustainable businesses for tomorrow.
With this, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up tonight's edition. Thanks for watching and have a great night.